Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Rosie and I graduated from the University of Oxford in 2019 and I'm now about to start a master's at Cranfield University in forensic archaeology and anthropology. Today's video is going to be all about preparing for your first tutorial. This is quite focused on anyone going to Oxford or Cambridge. It's called supervisions at Cambridge, but purely because that is the main teaching style. Anyone who has tutorials though will hopefully find this video useful. I'm just not entirely sure how other universities do tutorials, so sorry if it doesn't match up to what you're doing or the experiences you've had. Your first tutorial is daunting. It's a brand new, most likely, experience for you, having such small group teaching. Maybe you've never been in a setting before where you've really had to push your argument, defend your choices, write an essay in such a short space of time and then present it to an expert. It is terrifying, but you get so used to it and you realise that it is not such a daunting experience as it is at the beginning. As with everything. So how do you prepare for your first one? Well, here are 5 tips that you can use to help you prepare for your first tutorial and then any others going forward. Tip number 1, spend more time on the reading and the understanding than worrying about writing a perfect essay. If you're at Oxford or Cambridge, it is very likely that these individual essays don't actually count towards your grade. You hand in 2, maybe even 3 per week. That's actually quite a push, but I know medics do have to do that, so sorry to any medics. And so it is much more useful for you in the long run if you actually understand what you've read and what you've written. There have been countless essays where I have tried to just get an essay out really quickly and then therefore didn't really understand what I was writing, and it's those essays that I have been so much weaker on later down the line and have really regretted not spending more time worrying about actually knowing what it means than writing the essay itself. It is perfectly okay to use things like Spark Notes if it's books that you're studying or, you know, YouTube videos. I read some stuff on Bourdieu for anthropology and then found YouTube videos to help just solidify that knowledge, because quite often if someone's made a YouTube video on it, it's a bit dumbed down and it just means that you can understand the more complex, you know, theories and topics because you have that baseline knowledge. So don't underestimate the power of different media. You know, don't just rely on that article or that book that you're reading to help you understand, because these books and articles are written by academics who aren't writing about the basics. So don't be afraid to take yourself back to the basics. That's fine. And it's actually a really good idea. As a general tip for writing an essay and approaching the reading when you're writing your first essay and any essay after that, is to try and pick one overarching argument. Look at your question and just decide which way you're going to answer it. You know, you don't want to answer the question with 7 different arguments because it just looks a bit disjointed. So pick one overarching theme or argument. A way to think of it is you've got a necklace chain. So here's your necklace chain. You need to add beads to that necklace chain, but only beads that look good and are coordinated. So those coordinated beads all have to follow your overarching argument, which is your necklace chain. So you've got your overarching argument, then you might think, oh, this source really nicely backs up this argument. There's one bead. Or no, this source actually counteracts that argument. There's your other bead. And you end up with your full necklace, but it's all coordinated. You've got a nice colour coordinated necklace. And that way it actually makes it easier to then defend your point in the tutorial because you know what viewpoint you've taken. Whether that is, you know, the wrong or right viewpoint, there might not even be a wrong or right viewpoint. Chances are there isn't. But it just means that you can at least make sense of it easier. And as long as you have backed up that argument, they will enjoy your essay because you've shown you can write, you can argue, you can withstand other people's viewpoints, you can engage intellectually with each point and explain why those points match your argument, and that's the skill. So just try and focus on one argument. As a little 1B to this, your first essay will not be perfect. It is not expected to be perfect. I don't think it should be perfect, because the whole point of uni is to progress. Your first essay should be read back later as, oh my god, what is this? Otherwise, you've made no improvement, and what's the point in being there, you know? Don't spend ages trying to perfect it, because it's not gonna be perfect. Do what you can, understand the topic, and then move on from there. Build on it. Tip number 2, if you are struggling with the idea of arguing your points, of defending your own argument in this academic setting, then to help your nerves, you can write down the things that you definitely want to say. So even get some cue cards or just some cut up pieces of paper, put the main arguments from your essay on each one, even just a sentence, who said it, and maybe one critique that you can think of, or just the basic argument, just so that you know which ones it is that you definitely want to bring up. So if you remember what's on the cards, then hopefully you'll come flooding in with the backing up of it, and which journals you read and why you chose it, and that's what you need to know for the tutorial. This might actually end up being a bit too time consuming, just because there's so much to do when you're at uni, and particularly I know for me, when I was at Oxford, I planned to do all of these extra things and then didn't actually get time. So it's just a thought if you're really struggling initially, and then you'll get used to it over time. It can definitely help you feel more confident to have something in front of you. And on that same note, do take your laptop with the essay on it into the tutorial. At first, I would take nothing. I would literally just take a notepad, so none of the books, none of the actual writing I'd done, and that just made it so much harder to defend your points and to realise which thing they were talking about. I started taking in my laptop because it was easier to Google words that had been said on the spot if I didn't know what they were, to make sure that I'd linked a text that I should have used next to some writing that I'd done, that I'd learned in the tutorial. So just make sure you're actually being interactive in that tutorial. Number 3, highlight things prior to the tutorial that you can't get your head around. So there's nothing worse than going into your first ever tutorial thinking, oh my goodness, I understood nothing and I can't ask a question because then they'll think that I'm stupid, or that I shouldn't be here, that I don't belong here. No, we'll have none of that. You belong there. The tutors picked you for a reason. They want you there. They would not have gone through the whole application process. Regardless of grades at the end, they've chosen you specifically to be there. So we'll have none of the I don't deserve it, because you do. Asking for help or help on understanding is not weak, it's not shameful, it is actually the more intelligent and proactive thing to do, because you'll be learning from the expert. So if you've got a question about text or a theory, a theme, a topic, anything, bring it up in the tutorial. Ask why such and such is how it is. Ask why this person defended something. Ask why they started a theory. Ask about the basics. If you don't understand where something came from, you're not going to be able to understand the more advanced things to do with it. So make sure you get in there at the beginning, and do not worry about sounding like new or dumb, because you don't. You know, you're at university. You've proved that you can think critically and get there. Now you just need a little bit of help, and there's no shame in that. You're there to learn. Number 4 is to collaborate. This just takes some pressure off the individual people, including yourself. Again, there's no shame in helping each other out. It's new for everybody, and sometimes you just need a little leg up, right? And you need to help each other out. Ask around your course mates to see if anyone wants to share some of the readings. So make sure you do the key reading yourself. Any baseline books or readings with, say, stars, asterisks next to them, do yourself, because they're important. They've highlighted them for a reason. But if it's case studies, or, you know, individual writers that might add an extra level to your writing, why not help each other out and learn 2 and then share them? So then you know 6 if there's 3 of you. It just means that you've got a bigger bank of stuff and everybody's benefited from that. You shouldn't be thinking this is a competition. It's not a competition. At the end of the day, everyone will get a degree from that same university. And finally, number 5, don't forget to ease yourself in and take it slow. Be kind to yourself. This is new. This is your first attempt. You're preparing for something that is probably quite alien to you. It's difficult. You've also got all these other things going on, like freshers and welcome weeks and freshers fairs and online activities and all of this, meeting new people and getting used to it whilst in a pandemic. Give yourself some time to breathe. Don't go straight in the minute you've been handed in your work, which for me was the second day of freshers. It was the Tuesday. Don't then go and spend every hour in the library from the off, because you'll only regret it. No one is gonna take your first essay to mean, right, this is the standard that we're gonna expect all the way through because it's your first essay. You're just testing the water. Take your first week as it comes. Be nice to yourself. Have some fun. Admit that you need some time to dip your toe in, to kind of relearn how to make friends if you've never moved school for the last 7 years, for example. It's a difficult time. You've got to adapt to living by yourself, being a proper adult most likely. So an essay on top of that can be very stressful, and just know that, once again, as I said before, your first essay is not by any means expected to be perfect or your best work. You don't have to set a bar. You're not justifying your place with this essay. You know, it's just the start of something. The start of your journey. And if it's a rocky start, it's a rocky start. But at least you then might remember it nicely because you've done other things. If you have any other questions about tutorials, about defending your points, or any other video ideas related to starting university, in particular Oxford, purely because that was my experience, so I know kind of what to tell you. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you in my next video, which is actually going to be about making effective notes from journal articles. So thank you for watching. I'll see you then. Bye!